Awesome. Okay. All right. So, yeah, I have been observing and hearing about, and also doing my own processing of the childhood stuff. But well, I've been doing that for years, but this last month has just been like another round of doing that all over again. And you, when you do that continuously, you keep finding layers. It's like it's layered like a video game, so you keep finding layers of stuff that is still there, and the other memories and the new memories and the things that even you didn't even think that needed to be looked at, they come up to be looked at. And we had that entire um, eclipse corridor throughout June, um, and July as well. And things would just be coming up into our awareness. This is what these energies do. They amplify stuff that's on the bottom that we need to look at, and stuff just comes up to the surface. And I was amazed how much how many memories came up for me that would just coming out of nowhere. I'm at the point where it's not triggering or painful anymore. You know, there are no these emotional distress is not there anymore. And like the you know, the devastated, like
Yeah.
have to it's not there. But stuff would just kind of very gently come into my awareness. Like, why am I thinking about this person? You start looking at that, and then it moves me into, oh, you know, so there's still a little bit of that adjustment
Mm.
to be done. And so that's how the processing is for me, where I'm at this point. But I tell you, this entire month, childhood and school and growing, it's a life review while
Mm.
still alive, because we're shifting collectively into entirely new state of being. And some are shifting more, you know, the timeline split and the whole thing that's happening. But that all came up, and then it was all shown again, just to be looked at and re-examined, and then re-examining where you're at in the present moment, right?
Mm.
Compared to the previous times, or the previous, even the previous 6 months or previous year, or like in the present moment, are you in the right place from your perspective? Are you feeling that what you created is in alignment with your forward movement? Do I need to change something or not? And then another thing is observing how the brain creates routines, because once we do one level of healing, we get comfortable, and then we create a certain routine that seems to be right for that moment. But then it's a routine nonetheless, you know, and any routine is a block to progress. So when routine is like too long, and is it already time to move past that routine or strengthen this routine? But the brain will try to recreate routine with every single day. Every single day you're doing something, the brain is trying to create it into something that you're going to be continuously doing, like a habit. And
Mm.
so this is what I've been observing and noticing and doing with myself. Do you find that you had the same kind of a similar
Absolutely. Yeah,
experiences?
100. You're describing exactly what I've been going through. You know, that's exactly right. And, you know, it's like the same healing that I've done in the past, but I'm doing it at a much deeper level, and I'm doing it with so much more self direction, like the ability, just as you said there about going back in, you're not getting affected by it anymore. Like, I'm able to go
Yeah,
straight back into the trauma, fully immerse myself in those
yeah,
moments of pain, and not be affected by the pain internally, and been able to just direct my consciousness in such a way that it's almost like I can feel the, what's the word I'm trying to find? Like, it's like I can feel the healing behind the pain. It's like the vibration of the healing behind the pain is stronger now than the pain. So it's almost like the pain is irrelevant. And that's what I experienced last night when I was doing the healing on myself. You know, I was going back into past memories in school or whatever, times when I was bullied, ridiculed, all that type of stuff. And I was literally like going straight into the energies of the memories, but I was able to dissect the energies of each moment. And I was able to label each energy, but not only in my own space, but in the space of the other people. And I was able to see how their behaviors have been influenced from their, like, I don't know if it was their ancestors or whatever, but it was like, you know, a couple of days ago, I had this epiphany about most of our shit isn't ours. Okay. Most of our shit is not ours. It's shit. It's energy that was transmuted into our fields from other people that we adopted as our own. And we went around life for years thinking that the shit was ours, but it's really not. But the thing is, the shit isn't ours, but it's also not theirs either. Okay.
Yeah,
And
on.
when I was in this healing state last night or whatever, doing this healing on myself, I was identifying all the energies in the moments. And then I was identifying the causes, you know, through their ancestry lines or whatever. But then I was also able to say, it's not mine and it's not theirs. So that totally removed the blame. It removed, you know, even the need to forgive, because a lot of times, like, especially with myself, like, you know, for years, I thought healing was just about forgiveness. But forgiveness is only necessary if you're condemning someone.
Yeah.
And if you're holding that some vibration of resentment towards them. But, you know, since I've had that awareness about the shit is not yours and it's not theirs either, it's like, it just lifts it all off. It's just, the energy just clears automatically. And I've just never experienced anything like it. I honestly have never experienced anything like it. And it's so funny because the exact thing that I said last night after I did it, I kind of did a little recording, you know, about it on my memo or whatever. And I said to myself, this is the type of stuff that Isabella does. That's exactly what I said. And then today, when we were doing this, you know, we had this podcast schedule, but I had you see, I have days during the week where I turn off technology. I have off days, so I won't touch my phone and I won't touch my laptop, just to reset, basically, just to reset. And I was doing that today, and then like a notification came up on my phone. My phone was in my bedroom in my drawer, and I just started bing bong. And literally 5 minutes before we jumped on this call, I was like, "Oh shit, Isabella, I totally forgot." So it's just amazing how that synchronicity occurred last night, where I literally identified what I was doing as something that you do, and now today we're talking about it. So it's just beautiful how these things kind of occur, you know.
Yeah, I have a few comments to what you said. First of all, today is also my shutdown day, but because I've been doing what you're describing for an entire week. For people, I help people process their stuff in that same way. As a matter of fact, just yesterday, I worked on a case where it was incredible, because when I work on people, I look at their parents. And in this particular case, I looked at grandparents as well. And then I just wrote things in a way. So grandmother married an alcoholic, had self-worth issues. Mother married an alcoholic, had self-worth issues. Daughter married an alcoholic, had self-worth issues. Then they all three divorced an alcoholic, but married an abusive guy. And now the daughter is reaching out to me about her journey and her situation in her marriage. And I literally showed her exactly that. And this is what I do in my sessions. I look, and the match and energetic transference is just incredible. You literally could put the pictures. They all marrying the same exact guy. The guys even look the same. It's like the daughter is marrying the grandfather. It's ridiculous, but they don't see it because it's generational conditioning. But in the moment, the people have no idea. They come and they're saying, "What's wrong with my children?" because my daughter is, hey, like doing drugs, but I did drugs, my mom did drugs, my grandmother did drugs, but my daughter is doing drugs. What's wrong with my daughter? It's like, hello. This is passed on and inherited, and it's incredible how humans are so conditioned to not see that. And so I was explaining, well, yesterday I was doing that in many of my sessions, but yesterday was just mind-blowing of how you could see, like, and because I had pictures of all of them, all of the grandfathers, right? And then mom, grandma, and the daughter, and it's all the same exact energy. It's all the same exact pain that's being passed on, and we're conditioned into from generation to generation. But this is the part where, or the lifetime where we actually wake up. Wake up meaning we become aware that the program is there.
Yes.
And then we become aware that we don't have to repeat these patterns anymore. And we become creators of our own reality, but we have to clear that first to understand that all that is happening. Get to the point where you are, that you can observe, because you're becoming, when you become an observer of your painful experiences, then you see what they were teaching you, or where they came from, or how they influenced the generations before you. When you're able to detach and observe that, you're done with that program. And then when you're able to observe that program coming up in your own life, going forward, like, oh, I'm about to be that program again, I'm about to reinstall that program again. With this person, I feel that, oh, I'm being drawn, like this client, she was sharing with me that so her mom married an abusive guy, but then the daughter managed to, like, when the guy is not abusive, then she generates that abuse. So she provokes the argument, because she provokes the argument because it's the program that wants to reinstall itself, because it's programmed into human being like a norm. The normal behavior is this, and it's passed on. And so when your partner is not doing it, you end up becoming that person who's going to do it. And we're in a place where we became aware to see it, recognize it, and move past it, and start doing differently. All you need to do is practice. Talking about routine, the brain is going to constantly try to create routine. So if your routine was arguing within household, you grew up and your parents grew up on it, you grew up on it, you now are in your own household and arguing is happening, or whatever, right? And then that's going to be recreated over and over. But if you're able to decide that, I want to have a conscious relationship now, and I want to move out of that program, you literally have to catch yourself, watch yourself going into that state, catch yourself and interrupt, and recognize that whatever is the reason for the argument is probably just the program itself. And if you sit down and look at things from perspective of like the bigger picture, then people are able to recognize that the reason is really not that person, and not what they did, and not whatever, So it's just practicing or creating the new routine within the brain to be someone else. But here's the but. I also this week worked with someone, and I see these cases once in a while. So when the person comes to you and says, I've been doing this for 15 years and I'm still in that place, that's someone who does not have that desire, the honest intent to move out of being a program. That's the only reason. And they say, usually these people blame their healers, or they blame whatever, or they say, oh, I don't understand why I cannot move past it. You cannot move past it because it serves you in some way, or because it is something that you are not willing to give up, because the program, as bad as it is, creates a sense of something familiar safety. So safety, and it serves a purpose in some way. So people hold on to their disease, people hold on to their relationship patterns, people hold on to their own internal patterns, and then they're going to blame everything around them that their healers are not helping, or their practices are not helping, or these practices are not good enough or not strong enough. But the truth is, the same practices work for other people, but for some people they don't, because you also have to have the intention and the willingness and the readiness to say, you know what, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I'm done with this. I'm done with this. And then that's when things move on.
Absolutely right. And it's funny, I only posted a video the other day on Facebook about when you get to that point in your life where you just say to yourself, enough is enough. That's it. I'm done. And it's that personal resolve that comes through in that. It's only that 1 second of decision. 1 second. All it takes is 1 second to make a decision. And it's like, once that decision is made, it's done. But so many times, you know, you deal with people that they're not willing to admit to themselves that they have been wrong for so long. And they're also not willing to admit to themselves that they have addictions to drama, to trauma, you know, to so many different things. And it takes a certain amount of humility to be able to admit that, okay, I've been doing this pattern for the last 20 years. Maybe I need to admit to myself that I'm responsible for this pattern, and stop blaming my parents, stop blaming society, stop blaming whatever. But it takes humility to do that. And I just think a lot of times people aren't willing to admit they're wrong. It's like we've been brainwashed with this massive intrinsic value placed on being right. I mean, people argue their viewpoints about things and they want to be right. And it's like, if we can let go of that pride and that need to be right all the time. I mean, would you prefer to be right, or would you prefer to be free? Okay. Emotionally. I mean, of course you're going to want to be free, you know? So I just think there's a lot of, I suppose it's kind of an ego identification as well, because, you know, if you get proven that the thing you've been doing for the last 20 years is wrong, well, then there's something in that. There's a threat to the ego in that admittance. And I just think you have to drop it. You have to just drop it and just admit it to yourself, you know?
I think the word wrong it could generate resistance within a person. If the edge is softened a little bit, and just say, okay, what I've been doing for 20 years is not serving me any longer. So if they were in it for 20 years, it worked in some way, and that's why they held on to it for 20 years. But we're all, like, you found yourself in the present moment observing all of that happening, like you said. So when we come into the present moment and we're able to observe what we were doing for 20 years or whatever, or even in my case recently, I observed, okay, so over the last 2 years of my life, I made certain decisions, I made certain choices, and I developed a certain life and lifestyle. Does that work for me right now? Today, do I want to continue the same? Do I want to tweak it? Do I want to change it? Do I want to add stuff? Do I want to reduce stuff? So just when a person finds themselves that, let's say what they were doing for 20 years, like you said, does not serve them any longer, then it's a softer thing. And so that the resistance will be less. And then they will be like, okay, so the question of the moment is, what would serve me better in the present moment? So as far as admitting that they were screwed up for 20 years, screwed
up, I wouldn't say screwed up now, but when I say
or whatever, not everyone wants to do that. So
and that's exactly what I was talking about. Exactly. And it does take humility to be able to admit that. But again, if you're working with a client, obviously it's going to make more sense to language it in such a way that they're going to have less resistance towards making those positive changes in their life. So
For sure.
you know,
Have you observed how the brain creates a routine? I literally
absolutely.
was watching myself just a couple of weeks ago, and I was in this awareness bubble where I was moving around my space, and I was just observing how the body is doing things, and how, oh, if I do it differently the next day, I'm doing it exactly like I did it the day before. And just observing that it's a constantly running mechanism in the human being. You know, it's the mechanism that puts people back to sleep, basically. And no matter how good your routine is, how perfect, but if it became automatic program, and the body is constantly going to try to do that.
Yes.
So we kind of have to work against the body trying to develop these routines, no matter how good they feel or how right they are, how healthy they are, whatever. But that just takes us out of the equation there. You know, the conscious presence is not required anymore. You repeat something a few times, and then your body is just going to keep doing exactly that. And the same comes with feelings and emotional states and the state of being. On a good note, you can train yourself to feel happy and peaceful, same as you can train yourself or addict yourself to drama and pain, but you can addict yourself to feeling happy and peaceful also. But the whole, I think, fluctuation and awareness, fluctuation of experiences, and then also awareness of your state of being in every moment, that's what keeps us awake.
Absolutely.
Have you observed the routine creation?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Like that's why I do things like take technology breaks. You know, I mean, I've never done it for a week. I wish I'd love to do it for a week. Maybe I will at some point. But you know, I notice such a difference in my clarity of mind when I'm not online for 2 days. Like my mind just clears, and you just let go of so much, because you know, nowadays we're living a different style of life to what we were living any other time in history. We're constantly online. We're constantly communicating with people. We've got all these different connections going on. And, you know, we need to be able to give our brains a rest. And I just find that, you know, that's breaking the pattern. You're breaking the pattern. You're interrupting the pattern. And again, yeah, it comes to whatever habits that you have. If you can break, like, you know, even take a break from, even if they're good habits, as you were saying, Isabella, you know, but it's important to keep your brain dynamic.
Yeah.
Not static and not set, and not read different types of books, you know, speak to different types of people. Don't just get locked into the one train of thought or the one philosophy. Like, explore other philosophies and broaden your consciousness as much as you can, you know, in order to break that pattern. Because yes, the brain is designed to create routine, because that's what makes the ego safe. Essentially, it's safety, right. It's comfort. It might be familiar. You know, you might be in a shitty relationship for the past 20 years, and you know you're suffering. You want to get out. But there's something. It's that familiarity that holds you to that, because anything unfamiliar to you is unsafe. So, sure. And I experienced it myself. The last long-term relationship I was in, and I was literally in pain for, you know, over a year and a half, and I wanted to get out. But there was a part of me saying no. You know, I was too afraid to get out, because then I'd have to face the unknown, and then I'd have to, you know, whatever. And it's like, but that's exactly right. So it's like your brain, whatever way it works, it's trying to protect you, but it actually ends up causing you more shit by trying to protect you. So that's why you need to be conscious and be able to interrupt those patterns and make your own choices in relation to that. And that's why it's so important to cultivate, you know, breaking patterns, and cultivate becoming aware of yourself in the moment as these patterns occur. And especially in your body as well, those emotions that occur, you know, that, you know, those you know, something comes up or triggers you, and it's like, you know, it's take a split second to just pause and breathe and then respond.
And know what it is, you know, because for most people, that comes out of nowhere. The thought is that it comes out of nowhere. I get this question a lot. People say, something is holding me back. Okay. But when you have that full awareness of the program running, and then your routine running and how your body prefers things, you become able to regulate everything. You can regulate your routines, you can regulate your lifestyle, you can regulate even how your body responds to things, and you can even regulate production of different kinds of chemistry in your body. The body is very flexible once you build that relationship with the body. So the body is just a vessel, a vehicle that's dedicated to your process. So once you build that healthy relationship with the body, with yourself, and then with the body is going to be the best friend. It's going to be there for you. And so if you wanted to, okay, you observe that the body is running its programs, but you wanted to like restart or do differently, the body will comply. That's what's good about the body. But we have to operate this machinery. This is a machinery. You know, we have to operate it. We have to be the driver. And I think that whole awakening process is becoming the driver, and also they say, be the observer, being an observer of what it is that you're doing and how, and being aware of your own essence or your own behavior in the physical space. And that's very important, because people think, a lot of people in spiritual community think that, oh, if you have access to higher realms and you, I don't know, meditate and you're out of your physical experience, then you have reached enlightenment. But this is not true at all. We have to, it's actually the form of escape in a way, and it's used as an escape in majority of traumatized people would use spirituality as an escape, you know. So kind of hand in hand with the human experience and the spiritual experience or the higher realm experience, but then not forgetting the physical and the traumas here and stuff. And they all carry something. They all carry some sort of grain of wisdom or grain of truth or training. I hear that a lot in my channel messages from higher self. They say people with the most traumatic, god-awful stories, literally when I'm on the interview with the people, and it's heavy. You know, I'm listening to the person's life story going, oh my God, this is so, of course, I keep myself calm and everything, but the human aspect says, wow, how did you go through all that, right? And then the higher self comes online and says, well, you've trained hard and now you're ready to help others who are going through similar experiences. And it's all looked at from the higher perspective. It's all looked at as not only training, but also collection. You're collecting like a database. You're collecting a database of experiences, and then also building that humility, or building the ability to understand the other, where the other stands, or what the other is going through. And majority of healers on this planet have really disturbing stories and really intense stories. Yesterday I channeled something that was really funny. The higher self said the triple A of starseed experience on Earth. And I don't know if you have that. You probably don't have that in Ireland, but AAA, I think, is an insurance company here. So it's like it's known, right? But they said the AAA of the starseed experience on Earth: addictions, abandonment, abuse. that's like a standard.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
The standard package. Yeah, I'm gonna patent that.
That's a good one. That's something else. Wow. And I mean, we can all relate to that. That's amazing. Yeah, no, that's a good one. I like that. I'm gonna use that as well.
Yeah, there you go.
So yeah, I don't know. It's amazing. Like the last couple of months, you know, obviously with everything that's been going on in the world and, you know, all the chaos that's been occurring, you know, for me anyway, personally, I've just been like, go inside, heal the trauma, heal the
Yeah.
triggers, you know, because the triggers are coming up and it's like, it's only because we're relating to those triggers energetically. We're still vibrating on the same frequencies. But once you vibrate out of those frequencies, you don't relate to those energies anymore.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just think it's a crazy time in history, but it's also a huge time for spiritual growth, a
And
massive opportunity.
you can really see where people are. This whole situation in the world, it really was like is or was for me. It's ended already. Like I don't even see that. I barely saw it when it was the first wave, and now I don't see it at all. So it's like a giant spotlight on where people are,
Yeah.
because people who are super um, who, let's just say, who still need a lot of work within themselves, these people's lives are coming apart, and things are just out of control, and emotionally they're in really devastated space, and it's just really intense for them. There are people who are kind of in between, and then there are people that, so what? It's like they're unaffected. I'm I happen to be one of those people that, like I said, I barely noticed the whole thing. And now there was a moment in my consciousness there that the whole thing just ended. And it's so interesting because I was surprised that it didn't. I knew that it ended, it's over, you know, and I started reaching out to people and going, oh, you know, let's do things. So they're like, well, with distancing. And I was like, what? Are you still like
Yeah.
I was convinced that I heard somewhere that I knew somehow that the whole thing was over.
Yeah.
And then the interesting thing is, so that was happening around the time when I took my vacation, a break in my work. And as I'm sitting there, and my internal connection and my internal guidance is, well, you can do things now, saying that the whole quarantine is over. And that was my internal convincement completely, right? And so my friend reaches out and says, oh, let's go on a road trip. Sure, right? So we went on the road trip, 3 people, and we went to all the places that on the internet it said that they were closed, but they were all open. And there were no craziness, there were no insanity, because the internet said that the places were closed, so no one went there. So we were able to stay places that were not available, that you have to book like a year in advance. And we just drove right through, and restaurants were open, and everywhere we went, everything was in alignment, and none of like the whole stuff, which was technically still going on, we didn't see any of it. I came back totally convinced that it's over, and then I hear kind of from somewhere, oh, the second wave was on. I go out now, I go to restaurants and I eat out, and I do my thing, and my life has not changed or been affected by that. Looking at the memories of childhood, that came up very gently to question, because the eclipse corridor is the time of restructuring things, right? It's an opening, it's an energetic opening that lets you to build something new. The energies are very supportive, and taking a look what works, what doesn't, and how do you want to do it going forward, kind of like a beginning of the new era, new year, or whatever, if you wish. And I did that very much, and I literally went through just about every aspect of my life in the present moment, and every aspect that brought me here, and reevaluated everything. And it was very it was a beautiful experience for me personally. Like I felt that I don't even have a bucket list. Like I'm so zen, zen in the moment. I don't even have a bucket list anymore. You know, contentment is just, I love it. I'm so grateful for this, Yeah, well, a few things that I decided that I could tweak, yeah, that, but the rest is, yeah, things, all of the work, all of the meditations, all of the dedications to this path, all of that is paying off.
Yes, absolutely.
It's very clear to me in the present moment.
And that's exactly what I was saying before, like, this time in history where, spirituality is such an advantage in the sense of having the ability to heal yourself, having the ability to go into your past, into your trauma, and to clear it. And yeah, I mean, I'm the same. I was the same. Like, I think around April, like I did go through quite a bit of fear and stuff like that at the start when it hit. I was just caught off guard by it, but I literally said, right, I need to control my vibration. I need to cultivate my vibration. I was just doing meditating every night, every single night, and eventually I just cleared it. I cleared the energy, and then it was gone. Like, and I'm the same. Like, I go out and it's, you go out into some places, obviously you see people wearing masks and stuff, but it's not, the energy is totally different to what it was back in March. And I just think, yeah, it's just so important to not tune into those streams of consciousness, that the fear, the panic, the manipulation, the bullshit. Just tune it out. Go within yourself. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I don't see any of it at all. So it's not a part of my reality. It wasn't a part of my reality like for a while, and even that big outbreak of like in your face what's happening right now, that's still not a part of my reality. And I'm so grateful. I'm just beyond grateful for everything, all of the time and effort and work and focus and intention that I put into bringing myself there. When people say, hey, oh, this healer or that healer, no, you are the one who has to take you into that place. The healers are assisting in some way, or opening the door, or giving tools, or giving recommendations, or providing their energy, but you're the one who has to walk that path, or walk through the door, so to speak,
and take the responsibility for having the willingness to do so. And taking the responsibility for having the willingness to experience new possibilities, because a lot of times, again, it comes back to the familiar. People don't believe that they can experience new possibilities in relation to things that they've experienced for so long. And if you're not willing to step into those new possibilities and step into that unknown, there's going to be a risk. There's always an emotional risk when you're doing anything new, anything different. But you've got to dive. You've got to dive into the feather bed, and just do it.
Otherwise history repeats itself.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah. But so from the channelings that I've been getting in my sessions throughout this entire time, there's the same very similar message that comes through that says it's the time of observing the fragmentation within the human consciousness, the human structure, the structure of the soul, and bringing everything back into oneness, bringing everything back into a unified internal state of being versus polarities that we've been conditioned into. And there is a lot of that going on, as far as like fragmentation is the most common state. The fragmentation is when the person, let's say, wants two things at the same time, right? There are like two polar opposite things, and then there's resistance in between. And now the higher selves of all different kinds, or beings outside of this density, they've all been saying the same thing, that bring in everything back into oneness within your own self, connecting with that core essence. So instead of, like, let's say the black and the white, right, internally, the light and the dark, the shadow and the light, or whatever, to find the gray area. Find the gray area sounds like in language, right? It's like, yeah, gray area, but it really is finding that middle ground in between your light and your dark, or your confused aspects, and become the negotiator between these two and find that internal state where everyone is at peace. And when you are at peace, where you find that common ground between all of the different parts that are in constant conflict, the resistance is gone, and you are tuned into that flow of what you really are, and life becomes easy. Life becomes much easier when that happens. So that has been the guidance.
It's so funny that you say that, because literally, yesterday or today, there was something that came to me about, the light and the dark, and the good and the bad, and the, basically duality. And I was like, to be able to see it as you're neither of it.
Yeah.
It's, because people identify one or the other, and they're like, this is me and that's not me. But in reality, we're both. Yeah. And if you can understand that and look at that as a totality of energetic existence, and you can see yourself as the observer outside of that dynamic or that relationship, well, then you realize that you're not part of it. It's not you. It's just something you're observing, and it's something that you're identifying with in whatever way you choose to do so. And yeah, it's amazing that you mentioned that, because I literally only had that coming to me today. So yeah, it's just the polarity, and it's the same with, it's so true. That's what's occurring right now. People are like this side, and it's like, step out of it.
So two points here. One is that they work together, and they work beautifully together when we're in the middle, when we are that middleman between polarities. So everything comes into oneness, into unification, and then all of the experiences work together in a beautiful way, and you're able to observe and understand that. And then
go on.
And then it's a different thing, a little bit different thing of what you just said. And I was thinking about, like, how did we as a society, as a world, end up here? And it's a in your face manifestation of that complete loss of power and complete loss of consciousness and complete loss of awareness, the unconscious powerlessness that people have been experiencing internally. It all, like, everyone just puked that out into the external world, and so now it's shown back to us, right, through all of that that's going on in the world, because it's a collective manifestation. What's happening is a collective manifestation energetically. Of course, there are like levels. Oh my God, there are these people and these people, and they have agenda, and then there's that physical aspect and non-physical. But if you look at the bigger picture, like, what is it the manifestation of in your face? That's what the manifestation of, I figured, kind of, because I was questioning that. I was like, how did humanity arrive in this particular situation? It is just so clear. It's a literal manifestation of internal state of being of majority of the population on this planet. And now it's so loud that they're freaking out, because it's right back, and it's shown to them so brightly, so intensely, that it's the same thing, the trigger, right? But the trigger, personal trigger, that you understand, that you work with, but here it's a collective trigger, and
absolutely
majority of people are not even.
Well, the macro is a manifestation of the micro. So at the end of the day, collectively, it's just a manifestation of what's going on within people internally, on an individual level. But again, these people don't realize that focus of attention is everything, and they have the ability to direct their focus of attention, away from all the bullshit, and find peace within themselves. So the solution's already there. It's already there, So,
well, I've had a few people that I worked with through this time that were able to do that within their own personal reality, just like that, because we looked at their circumstances, we looked at their options, and they just experience that kind of breakthrough, like, I no more, and well, I'm going to step forward now and not wait till all of that is over, or not be in this miserable state anymore because I can't take this anymore. And so those who are pushed into that space, and then they find the way, they find the internal state of being that allows them to move forward in their reality, and so they're less affected by what's happening externally. The number one thing to do at this point is to regulate that internal reality, so that external doesn't have to mirror it so badly, so that we don't get the mirror being so loud. So when you're able to regulate your internal environment, when you're able to regulate your own state of being, your own state of consciousness, your own vibration, your own emotional state, then you literally become less of a magnet to, or the volume goes down on the external environment. And so then who cares, not that who cares sounds kind of someone who doesn't care. Well, we care, but we don't have to be part of it, like be in the world but not all of it. Yeah. And it's another human experiment that we are a part of, as the ones who came here to have human experiences. These are my perspectives on things.
Absolutely, I love it. I mean, I love that. Yeah, and it's expanding your awareness. You're expanding your consciousness, looking at it from a totally different vantage point, where you're not the participant, but you're the observer of the totality of it all. And that gives you that ability then to see things as they are, as opposed to getting caught up in them. But let's talk a little bit about timelines, because I remember seeing something before about the split timeline. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, based on quantum physics, right? The way I say every moment is infinite. So I would assume that the timelines, would they not split in every second anyway, infinitely?
Yeah.
So how is the two timeline theory then? What's that about?
I think that has to do with, again, the focus, because on the base of the quantum physics principles, right? The focus determines the outcome, right? So there is a very strong focus in the hardcore 3D in your face experience we just discussed. Yeah. And then the light worker community, or the ones who are not there, they have a very strong focus in a different direction. And so that kind of sorts the experiences into two piles, let's just say, right? Because I'm sure there are, like, all of the other timelines in between, they're also possible, but the amount of focus on all of the in-between ones is not as much as it is on these two possibilities. And so this is, I think, how that's created. And that just intuitively feels right to me.
No, that makes perfect sense to me. That makes perfect sense. 100%, absolutely. And what would you say then about energetic equilibrium in relation to the higher vibration of, say, the Lightworker 5D focus and the lower vibration of the 3D? There must be some sort of equilibrium there with those two energetic forces, if they are balancing each other, would you say?
I know from my own experience, people who are in high distress and highly connected to that distressful timeline, right? Pile number one, they come to me for work. I am connected to the second pile, or the different timeline, a different outcome, different experience of the whole thing completely. But when they come to me for work, I share the energy, the perspective, the reality of that different perspective, and they kind of bring it so they bring it with them into the hardcore 3D experience. So there is that. I think the light workers balancing this in a way that we are infusing the energy of the higher potential into the lower potential timeline. I think that's the service that we're doing here.
Yes.
So we are, because we're in awareness of what's going on. We're not majority, or preferably we're not completely ignorant as in what's happening. So we're aware of it, but we're not a part of it. So we're we're connected to a different timeline, different state of being. You call it 5D. But we're pulling the energy, or we're sharing that energy into the 3D. So it creates that kind of assistance in that way. And I think that that's the balance of energy. The balance, the equilibrium is that we're aware in the higher reality, we're aware of the lower reality happening. We can still see it, and we can also deliver our energy into the lower reality, but we're not pulling the energy of the lower reality into higher timelines. If we move into experience of full ascension, or whatever that's called, when we are past 5D and I don't know if it's 6 or whatever, but we're no longer who's counting, who's coming up with who's
I know,
who's coming up with these numbers? I have no idea. But if we move into a state of being where we're not even able to see 3D reality, then we're no longer linked to that, and so there is no longer any correlation or relationship between these two. But as long as they, let's say 5D and 3D, they are coexisting and somehow correlating and sharing energy, ideally from the higher to the lower, to lift the lower, then that coexistence is still there. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but
no, absolutely, you're affirming everything. Yeah, absolutely. No, that makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. The higher levels of consciousness are essentially supporting the lower levels and transmuting the lower levels to rise into the higher levels, and enabling people to let go of all their crap.
And it's very much layers and layers of stuff, because for the ones on the higher potential, there is support from the layer just a little bit above, and then just a little bit above to that, and a little bit above to that, and it's everything is all interconnected. The layers of consciousness, and the layers of soul experiences, and very different in different states of consciousness, in different states of density, they all interconnected. So let's say in my meditations, I'm pulling something from higher realms into myself, and let's say in 5D, and then from 5D I'm sharing that or delegating that into the levels of consciousness that are below 5D, if we want to use this kind of terminology. But it's all interconnected, and we're supported when we realize, when we have the eyes to see, and we have developed that relationship with these higher experiences. And these higher experiences are technically just an extension of the same process, of the same soul, if you want to call it, or the same spirit that is in all of these realities simultaneously.
So they're just different manifestations of the same substance, essentially at different vibrations, different frequencies.
Yeah, it's all the fabric. Well, technically it's all sound.
Yes.
But it's a different sound of the universe, which creates a different form and different level of consciousness, and they all part of the same fabric of the universe, and they're all interconnected, and they all influence each other. and trickles all the way down, and the 3D reality is made of the same fabric, but it's just very deaf. Let's say they're not able to hear the sound. They're not able to hear the sound of the fabric of the universe.
Wow. Well, I love listening to you talking about this stuff. It just takes me away.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I get a lot of information and a lot of guidance, not only through my own meditations and my own experiences, but also through the channeled messages. And it's just such a blessing. I am so grateful. A lot of the plasma dimension has been coming in, and the plasma dimension actually just explained themselves. This week I've been receiving channel messages from the plasma dimension, and they explain themselves as being, because they were trying to explain it in the human terms. In human terms, the plasma dimension is a level below the void. The void is the blackness or the darkness. Technically, it's a completely black space of nothingness, which is the energy that generates various types of experiences. So that when that, or the fabric of reality.
So can I just define it? Could I define it as the no thing, which is the opposite of the thing that is needed to have everything, and no thing as that duality?
Yeah, okay. Definitely. That's that. And so it's a state, technically the state where the spectrum of light does not exist because of the texture of that energy, let's just say. And then when the light comes in, it starts breaking into different spectrums of light, and it generates that plasma rainbow dimension that humans are tapping into right now. And I've been actually seeing that in sessions, and this week I channeled the feeling that comes through with that is unbelievable. So I get to experience the sensation. I was surprised I was still in the physical body when I was done with it.
It's crazy. When you mentioned that, it just came into me what that felt like. It seems like it felt absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow.
The texture of that frequency, of that consciousness that is not in form yet, but it's just light coming through to generate the spectrum of sound, light, consciousness, and then it starts forming into various types of experiences which actually have form, and then trickles all the way down here, and then here we have the physical dimension.
And it's like the properties of light, like the rainbow. When when the prism splits the white light, it splits into rainbow.
Exactly.
And you're saying it's a dimension that is essentially,
it has consciousness. It has consciousness. You can talk to it. Yeah. It actually it's a state of being.
Is it like a collective consciousness, or is it? Explain when you say it's a consciousness. How do you mean that exactly?
It feels like one consciousness. So I don't know if it's split into, like, when we say collective, it means many different beings in one group, right? But here, it's not a group, it's just one being.
Wow.
That's how it feels like.
That's incredible.
But what I've been seeing in my sessions is that some clients have access through their stream of soul stream. They have access, human realm, next realm, form, reality, and then straight into that dimension where it's just one consciousness, one being, one mind. in that iridescent plasma rainbow state. Oh my God. It's unbelievable. The feeling of that is unbelievable, I tell you. And oh, here's another thing that I discovered this week is that not only the humans are now, it seems like that consciousness is becoming available, or we're becoming available to experience the consciousness. So some humans are tapping into that state, or tapping into experiencing that like me, or observing that in some way, right? But not only the humans, but also other cosmic races. Like I also worked this week with someone who had connection to the alien race, and there's like a certain level of ascension in the avian race, and that race, they were explaining or expressing that they are also now on their level of ascension or development evolution, they are gaining access to that plasma rainbow dimension too. So it's like various types of forms of life throughout the universe. I don't know if it's at this time, or I'm observing it at this time because I'm there too, right? But let's say from where I stand, it's like at this time, various forms of lives of consciousness, life forms around the galaxy are tapping into that dimension. It's just, oh my God.
Maybe it isn't. Maybe time is irrelevant. Maybe
Yeah.
it could be different points
Maybe
in time.
it's happening maybe it's happening all the time. Most likely it's just because we only have that time limitation, and we only experience that linearity in human form, right? So for me, it's like, oh, now they're all tapping into it, but they're tapping into it all the time. They're connected, they're interconnected with that all the time. But for me, for where we are at as humans, it's happening right now. So we as humanity, within our slow density of time, we finally arrived in the place where we're connecting so highest to that dimension.
Wow.
They said that kind of, if we look at it linearly, from the human perspective, humans will like to organize things in boxes and layers, levels, numbers, all that. So from that perspective, it's the second level of consciousness after the infinity of that black space, which we call the void, the nothingness, what includes everything, the no one, nowhere, that includes everything, that is a part of everything.
Wow. So that's pure potentiality. Essentially, the void is pure potentiality, where the potential of all things to exist as nothing, which is the duality opposite of everything, which is a no thing, everything, yin yang. And I think they call that the Tao or something in Eastern philosophy, the Tao, which is the totality. It's the totality. So that's just amazing.
All right, so I think that I'm gonna leave you with that to
chew on.
to integrate, just feel into it, what you felt, continue feeling into it. It'll be something to tap into patience or whatever.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. That is absolutely, that's another level. That's another level of energy. Totally, that's another level. Wow, absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much.
All right.
There was a wonderful experience, Isabella. I love talking to you about this stuff, because you just, every time I speak to you, you're just like, my mind just goes, I'm like, oh my God, what's this? What's this? What's that? What's that? I was like,
that's how we upgrade. This is how we help each other to upgrade. And when, the brain has then a different capacity. One capacity of the brain is to keep recreating routine. But the second capacity of the brain is when the brain is exposed to the new concept, the new state of being, especially if it's accompanied by the feeling which you just experienced, then the brain generates new neural path connections in there, and it starts pulling you towards that becoming a norm. And so you're welcome.
I am. I'm very welcome.
All right.
Oh, that was cool. Yeah. So, well, yeah, we have to do this again sometime.
Yeah, I'm into it for sure, for sure. All right, my dear. So it was a pleasure talking to you. I'll jump off and we can get on Facebook for a sec. But thank you for this wonderful conversation this afternoon.
Thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure, Isabella. I'll talk to you very soon.
All right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.